The patellofemoral joint, or PFJ, is a really common site of pain in running and jumping athletes.
4 of their 6 seasons united. What a good start, and you can't get much better than that!
The joint normally becomes painful when it's overloaded, where the joint can't cope with the stress or load being placed upon it, and this results in pain that is felt around or underneath the kneecap. These symptoms can range from something that's mildly annoying to something that's quite limiting, and often when we have significant pain, we also have a reduction in strength and function that can reduce our activities and also our performance. When we look at rehab for the PFJ, it normally involves a few days of reduced or modified load, and then a graduated progressive rebuild of load of activity and strength training to help make the joint be able to withstand greater forces and be more resilient and tolerant. Part of that training is often strength training, and a really good adjunct to that strength training is blood flow restriction, which has evidence to support its ability to reduce pain and enhance the effects of the strength training in that early stage of rehab, and we'll go through some of the ways that you can do that.
One of the main roles of the quadriceps is to control the movement of the patella. A weakness in the quads can cause the patella to not track correctly, or inefficient recruitment patterns of our quadriceps can also then lead to an inability to control and produce force. Early on in the rehab phase of managing our PFJ pain, there's 2 main exercises we like to use to regain some strength in those quadriceps. One being a single leg knee extension and the other being a single leg squat. We use the single leg knee extension as it's a non-weight bearing activity, and also really isolates and targets that quadricep muscle. We only do it between a range of 90 to 45 degrees of knee flexion, so we're not putting too much stress on the knee joint and that PFJ pain itself. With our single leg squat, it is a weight bearing exercise, but once again, we're not going through full range. So all we're after is from that standing tall position, just to a 45-degree bend. And just controlling that movement. So yes, it is a compound exercise, so there's a variety of muscles coming into play, but the quadriceps are still a main driver for us in that one. As Steve mentioned earlier, blood flow restriction training can be a fantastic tool that we can add into either our single leg knee extension or our single leg squat when we're trying to increase the difficulty of the exercise without adding external load, which would then impact that PFJ pain. So what we've got is the blood flow cuff on, and we'll just go through our single leg squats from here. It's important to highlight that throughout the management of our PFJ pain, and while we are trying to regain that quad strength back in, we can still be going hard with our posterior training and still loading that up and getting some really good strength and performance improvements on that side. As that quad strength is coming along and the pain in the joint is starting to reduce, we can start to add additional load to our exercises or increase the range of motion which we're moving through. There's also plenty of other additional quad dominant exercises that we can be adding in, whether that be from a leg press to a Spanish squat, backwards sled drags, step downs, and then as we're going along, moving towards like our split squat and rear foot elevated split squat movements from there. It's also important to continue, or once we're getting some really good strength and everything's feeling okay, that we then start to reintroduce our plyometrics. So starting off with as simple pogo jumps on the spot, moving forwards and backwards, to a box jump where we have less of a landing force, and then gradually progressing that through to ice skaters, and just slowly building through the continuum from there. So just wrapping everything up. Yes, early on, our rest, our load management is super important in allowing the joint to settle down. But following that, we do need to get that block of strength working to get those quadriceps nice and strong, because that's going to help take the load away from irritating that knee joint. Throughout this whole rehab phase, it's also important to acknowledge, like I touched on, that we can still be going hard on our posterior chain. And that's only going to help us moving forward with our knee joint as well. So hopefully you found this beneficial. Any questions, shoot them through.
Back down the floor quickly here, Melbourne United. They can stop it.